Responding to Wagner House's condition, the project consists of the creation of different scenarios that provide the mediation between human and non-humans. The domestic and urban realm are repurposed to support the life of Wagner's residents and its community through the exploration of natural light, ventilation, and urban agriculture that will transform the metabolism of the everyday life. New York City Housing Authority was created in 1934 to provide affordable housing. By then, thousands of families lived in substandard buildings that lacked safety, hygiene, and ventilation. NYCHA's new developments displaced thousands of low-income families, and 1 in every 3 buildings was demolished. In 1935, the first housing development was built from scratch in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. NYCHA envisioned its development as functioning communities with daycare centers and after-school programs for the residents' children. Outdoor spaces were designed to be welcoming and promote a healthy life. Around the 50s, due to the high demand for housing, NYCHA chose its applicants based on race, social, and moral conduction, and by the 60s, the developments became highly segregated. Years later, NYCHA suffered a disinvestment from the governmental level, and the shortage of funds led to lack of maintenance and degraded conditions. By the 80s, affordable housing was plagued by vandalism, crimes, and drugs. Currently, more than 200,000 families are on the waiting list for public housing. For years, NYCHA's residents have been fighting to obtain maintenance and appropriate housing conditions by disclosing the real life within public housing.
The New York City housing is atrocious. It's the worst that there is. Public housing in New York City isn't good enough to be called a zoo. You want to put an animal in there, but yet the city continually puts in good, healthy people in these buildings, and they continually get sick because there's no lead. They do not remove the lead. There's water leaks, there's floods, there's mold, there's total disintegration of floors.
Currently, approximately 600,000 people live on NYCHA's apartments. If NYCHA land was a city, it would be larger than the city of Miami. The buildings are characterized by the mass production mindset of the post-war, and the developments are recognizable from every corner. Their shape and facade represent repetitive patterns immersed in huge blocks. The sparse areas between the buildings lack atmosphere, life, and community, promoting a disruption with the urban fabric of its surroundings. Wagner Houses is located in 120th Street between Harlem River and 2nd Avenue. The complex occupies 2 blocks with a total of 22 buildings differentiated by 2 typologies of different heights and building mass. This study analyzes 9 buildings located on Wagner's House's West Block. The intervention is nothing unlike NYCHA's history of demolishment and displacement. Instead, it modifies the existing building as minimal as necessary to provide a better living condition to the residents. The structural system, brick facades, and shape will be maintained. The enclosed vertical circulation and windows are replaced, and balconies and extra floors will be added in cross-laminated timber, allowing the creation of new units and increasing the floor-to-ceiling height. The 2 original building typologies brought darkness while stripping the identity of the residents. The existing circulation is characterized by long corridors that lack natural light and ventilation, depriving the residents from developing a sense of community. The proposed circulation is organized along the central core of the building, creating social spaces flooded with natural light. The second building typology is organized through the same principles: the replacement of windows and vertical circulation and the addition of balcony.
Not really like perks, but like what are some perks for living here, I guess? Like is there laundry? Like
You know what the perks is?
what are the perks?
No light and gas.
No light and gas?
No.
Okay. Yeah, like
That's the
Texas.
perks. That's about it.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
okay.
lack of service period.
Lack of any service.
The new windows characterized by volumes that exceeds the perimeter of the building is a significant change of the most powerful stigmatization of the projects. The new windows will allow the buildings to breathe and will promote liberating spaces that can be used as an extension of the units. Residents, therefore, shall feel they inhabit the city instead of living behind dense brick walls. According to the government of New York City, almost one-third of the households in East Harlem had incomes below the federal poverty level, and nearly half of the children in the area were living in poverty in 2016. Reports show the direct relation between unemployment and housing burden and self-reported food insecurity. Many households within Wagner houses stated to be eating less due to economic impacts. As a result, Wagner will transition to a future that supports residents to strive in their daily diet through hydroponic farming. The system takes over the central core and balconies of the buildings and will be cultivated by the residents, changing the metabolism of their everyday life. The farming system allows the residents to grow their own food through a non-soil-based agriculture and will create sensory conditions of heat, light, and water while converting toxic pollutants into plant food, improving the air quality of the buildings. The tubes perform as pipes that carries the harvested water mixed with rich nutrients to each crop. The system makes use of recirculated water, allowing the plants to grow with up 98% less water than traditional growing methods. The LED light of the system will maintain a minimal lighting in the buildings during the nighttime, encouraging a safe community. This new ecology will promote a radical disconnection with the original building. The new apartment's configuration starts from the premise that contemporary social housing cannot provide just a single homogeneous housing option. Responding to Wagner's demographics, which is composed by 43% of single seniors and single parents with a child, the dwellings are redistributed as small neighborhood units where a kitchen and living room are shared. This new configuration of space disregards the traditional family structure and upholds the individuality of Wagner House's residents. The building's organization in an orderly repetition within the single-use superblock promotes a disruption with the city's urban fabric. 60% of the ground floor surface is characterized by underutilized spaces that are surrounded by fences preventing any activities from happening. The introduction of a new construction system through cross-laminated timber will restore and activate the ground floor, allowing the buildings to expand elevated from the ground, protecting the new programs from the risk of flood. The growing structure connects the buildings, providing additional housing units, retail, hydroponic cultivation, and training facilities focused on the production of food. The retail unit will help strive employment in East Harlem and will support the residents to open a small business while reconnecting Wagner houses to the neighborhood. The CLT structure promotes an open-ended organization of programs while creating courtyards for intimate collective spaces. The housing units are organized in 3 different floors along outdoor and indoor spaces that serve as balconies. The low height of the structure will encourage the interaction between people on the ground floor and upper floors, serving as a positive future for the elderly. The CLT structure will blur the boundaries of indoor and outdoor spaces, serving as a transition between public and private programs and generate a new ritual of accessing the buildings through semi-public spaces. Weaving together tenets of ecology, social interaction, and economic strife, the project unveils how architecture can help heal and repair Wagner houses and the way of living of its residents.